Hello there and welcome to another Why You Lost, this time Dark Elves versus Chaos, this replay sent to me by Memphis, who I believe may have been in one of these before. Either way, he's going up against the Chaos today, but he fucked it up somehow, so let's have a look what went wrong. He's facing a fairly sizable Chaos army, so we'll see what they've both got on the table. Although his army is also pretty big itself, not quite as wide as this Chaos army though. He's going big and wide, maybe looking for those flanks. Let's have a look at what they got. So front line for Memphis, he's got 4 units of Bleak Swords. A couple of Dread Spears on either edge, as you do. Got some Sisters of Singing Doom, some nice anti-infantry in those. A couple of Dark Shards with no shields, which is fine, don't need them against the Chaos so much. 2 Coldwind Spears, 1 Dread Knight, some Dread Spears at the back, and a High Beastmaster on a Manticore as the Lord. Also some Harpies spread out wide on both sides. 3 units of those all together. So that is the entire army. What do we notice is the problem here? No caster. But it was a choice. He chose not to bring a caster. He likes to mess around with some older builds, some that don't have casters, and well, that just isn't viable these days. In Warhammer 1, I think you could get away with that, but nowadays Magic is just too strong to not really take advantage of. Because whether he brings a caster or not, he's got that 60 Winds of Magic roughly to use. But if he doesn't bring a caster, he can't unlock it and use it, so he's missing out on thousands of value in damage potentially. For the Chaos army, he's got Chaos Marauders aplenty, great weapons and regular, so he's got about 7 units, double Manticores on the edge as well there, and then just a whole lot of skirmish cav for the most part. Horsemen, more horsemen or horsemasters there, and then more horsemen. So a lot of skirmish cav, 2 chariots as well, Chaos Chariots, and then Archaon on his horse, and that is his lot. That is the Chaos lot. So a lot of infantry, a lot of skirmish cav, certainly dealable with for Memphis's army. But let's see how it goes down. He's moving up. I'm not sure overall how good of a player Memphis is. He's got a good formation. He knows how to move it. So that's a good start of a sign of a decent player. Starts to move back though. A fireball comes in. Gonna hit his lord in the butthole. But that was quite dodgeable. If he'd noticed it, he could have just juked to the left or right real quick. And he probably would have dodged that fireball no problem. But he's moving back a bit here. Forming himself up. Maybe he didn't like the look of the size of the Chaos army, but he's decided to fall back. Brings the Harpies in, getting after the skirmish cav, but perhaps a little too early because they're very isolated and alone, getting shot at by 4 units of skirmish cav here. May have been better leaving those Harpies out the way for now, letting the skirmish cav move up and then just shooting it with his Dark Shards, because they would put those away pretty quick, especially if they were all clumped up. Front line's coming in, misses a charge there. Gonna get his other units charging though. So overall playing a little reactively, which can be dangerous. He could be pushing around the flanks now with his cav, but instead he's kind of leaving it back, playing the defensive game. Brings in a charge though on the front line here. A nice play, that'll do some good damage with those Dread Knights. Brings in the Sisters here, but maybe missing a little bit of a trick on who he's targeting here, going into these Chaos Marauders, but these Bleak Swords don't really need help with those Chaos Marauders. They could have come after these Great Weapons, who would have been a bit more dangerous, and because the Great Weapons are armor piercing, their armor piercing is good against units that have armor, right? If you fight something that doesn't really have armor, well, it doesn't really matter that much, like these Witch Elves. They kind of negate the power of armor piercing because they have that physical resistance rather than any armor. So should have gone for those instead, perhaps. Could have got them gone quick, and this is another reason why he maybe should have gone with them, because now he's a little clumped up with those Sisters, and he's going to take a burning head to the head of his Sisters and the Bleak Swords. But it's not the end of the world. The Sisters are okay. They've got about half health left. They're all right. Bit of a mess over this side. Some of his boys have broken. There's a lot of infantry to deal with. Those chariots have come in as well. They're making it tough. But he's answering with the cav. Those cold one cav should be able to deal with it. Now he's trying to focus the great weapons with his 2 missiles, but I think the better play here would have been to shoot that missile cav. As I said, the best way to deal with missile cav, shoot the bastards. You got 2 units of Dark Shards there, very strong missiles. They put those away quick. And then you could actually save the Harpies. If you could rout the skirmish cavs and then get the Harpies on them to chase them off the map, that would probably be the better use of the Harpies in this case, because they're not the strongest and toughest unit in the world. They will rout pretty quick. So sometimes they're best off just waiting to chase off routed enemy units. Overall, holding out okay though. Got a little bit of a chariot problem, charging around all over the place. He's got the 2 Manticores coming after his lord by the looks of it, which is a bit of a risk for him. That High Beastmaster all alone in the air. He could maybe help him with the missiles. Big part of skirmish cav there. Manticores nearly getting a hold of the lord. He just about escapes though. Broken a couple of units here. Sisters and cav working together. And that's what he needs. A bit of cycle charging around. He is breaking some of this infantry. So they're kind of trading in the infantry deaths. Manticores kind of on top of the lord though. He needs to go to ground to get away. I think he knows this, and that's what he does. He goes down to hit this routed unit. Even though it's routed, he doesn't need to attack it. It allows him to go to ground and also bring that Manticore to ground with him. The other ones run away. Trying to get a hold of the Chariots here. He needs to do that with the Cav. The Cav, one of the best ways to deal with these Chariots, because they can at least keep up with them, keep the pressure on them, and keep the damage on them. They are going in after his Lord here, but he has got one of those Manticores routed for the most part. Skirmish Cav over here. The Harpies have come back in, but nothing they could do there. Again, may have been best leaving them out the way until something routed and then trying to jump on it. But at this point, he's got rid of a lot of the infantry, the most of it, to be honest. It's only really the Skirmish Cav that's still running around. A few other bits and bobs, but he's done well to hold off all that infantry to get rid of them. Now all he's got to do is tie up this Skirmish Cav, as he's doing a bit here, making sure they don't use their ammo. If you can get rid of them before they use their ammo, that would be optimal. Archaon, though, still in good health. Took a bit of damage, did the High Beastmaster, but he's okay. He's not too bad. So at this point, it's anybody's game. Favor bar is bang in the middle. There's still time for both players to potentially take this. He's jumping on Archaon here, trying to get some damage on him. He's got 2 of his Cavs on him and some Dread Spears. Some great weapons arriving, though. He's got his missiles, currently shooting a Manticore. Good to try and finish that off, but maybe better off trying to get some damage on Archaon with those if he pulled all his stuff away. But now it's mostly just Skirmish Cav. The Chariots are beaten up, the infantry's gone. There's not a lot left for the Chaos, other than Archaon and the Skirmish Cav. But his army is perhaps lacking in a bit of character-killing power. He doesn't have any kind of high-damage, powerful elite units. He's only got his Lord, but he doesn't even have armor-piercing, the High Beastmaster, so he's only so useful. He does have the anti-large bonus, but Archaon's a tough boy. You're going to need some armor-piercing to get through his thick hide. And there's no single entities to speak of, no heroes, no single large monsters, so nothing that can put out big damage onto a single target very well. And that's kind of the trouble he's having here, trying to deal with Archaon. Still got some Chariots charging around a little bit. Mostly got rid of the Manticores now, though. One Chariot's gone, this infantry's not doing a lot. So he's got this for the taking. But, oh, Scheisse, it's another Burning Head. He's got his Sisters, his Dread Knights, his Dread Spears, some Cold One Knights, all squished up together. But maybe he would have been better off just using the Cav and alternating and cycle charging Archaon to put the armor-piercing damage on him. He could have alternatively tried to use his Dark Shards if they were not hassled. If he could line them both up, just next to each other, wherever, and then get everything away from Archaon, pull all of his units away now, and then just focus fire Archaon down with those 2 Dark Shards, they'd probably be the best bet at doing damage to him at this point. Lord's coming in now, though, the High Beastmaster. Oh no, he's changed his mind. He's going to get rid of this Manticore instead. But Archaon is just the problem now. Everything else is so low leadership for the Chaos, 1 hit and they're going to go away. Except for Archaon. And that's the struggle. That's his struggle here. Can't get rid of the Everchosen. And that's pretty much the issue here. He doesn't have any big character killing power, and now he's paying for it, because Archaon was still in pretty good health in the late game, and now you're struggling to take him down. Some of the infantry returning to get after the Dark Shards, so that's taking them off the table. The Manticores have come back and are hanging around just and just. They're both very dead. Beastmaster goes after Archaon here, but gets tailed by a Manticore and then gets routed himself. So the old High Beastmaster is gone, nearly dead. Only 147 health left. He's lucky to be alive, but Archaon, not sweating it. Not even sweating it. He's fine. He's not worried. If that High Beastmaster goes off, it's going to be game over. But, you know, we already know it's game over. But shh. He's put up a good fight. He's done a good job to defeat the larger army with all that infantry. He kept it away well. But unfortunately for his High Beastmaster, another fireball is a-coming directly towards his rear end. And down he goes. The Beastmaster sleeps in the rocks for the rest of his days. But he also had the issue there that a lot of Chaos stuff kept coming back. Those Manticores were probably routed 2 or 3 times, but they kept coming back. That's where those Harpies really could have come into play. If he'd had fresh Harpies just waiting for something to rout, and as soon as it did, they jumped on it, they would have got rid of those Manticores when they first got routed like 2 or 3 minutes ago. So if you can't see a good opportunity with Harpies, probably best to just use them as a route chaser, or whatever you want to call it. Because they can take on Skirmish Cav, but only if they can catch them if they're already engaged in something, because while Harpies are fast, they're not that fast, and thus they'll just get shot to crap by Skirmish Cav before they're actually able to get hold of them. So, got to pick your opportunities. 3 units of them here, maybe a little too many, maybe just 2, maybe even 1 would have been fine. But with all this Chaos stuff routing a lot, the Manticores, the Skirmish Cav, if he chased those off when they first routed, probably wouldn't have been a different story here. Or, you know, if he'd also bought magic as well. So the High Beastmaster, doing a little bit, but nothing spectacular. Some work from Bleak Swords. Little from Dreadspear's Sisters. Not great. Dark Shards doing a little work. Cav doing pretty well, though. Nice damage on a lot of Cavs. The Harpies, though, getting a little work done. Not completely useless, but not enough. Archaon, there you go. Nearly 3,000 damage for the big man. Marauders are Marauders. They're not going to do a great deal. A little bit from some of them. So no outstanding units. A bit from the Skirmish Cav. Manticores, doing one of them doing okay. So mostly Archaon there. All Archaon. Let's take a look at the build and see what we could have changed. So this is Memphis's Dark Elf army. Let's take a look and see if there's anything we could improve. So we had the High Beastmaster, the 4 units of Bleak Swords up front, Dread Spears scattered around as anti-large protection, anti-infantry in the Sisters, missiles in the Dark Shards, mobility in all the Cav and the Harpies. Not a bad build overall. Not a bad build at all. It's got a nice balanced feel. You've got the mobility, you've got the range, you've got the anti-infantry, you've got the chaff. It's a good build overall. But lacking, of course, that caster, which is really what we needed here. But I do wonder why he chose the High Beastmaster over Rakarth, because the High Beastmaster's okay, he's very cheap, but he doesn't have armor piercing, which is pretty important against the Chaos because they are big, heavy lads. Rakarth is the answer there. He's pretty much the same as the High Beastmaster, but he's armor piercing and still anti-large, so he could take on those Dragon Ogres or Archaon on his horse, all for about the same price as what that High Beastmaster costs. And as you can see, we're a little bit over. Get rid of a few chevrons, and there you go. Rakarth was easily affordable in this build, and it gives you the armor piercing, which could have taken down Archaon potentially. So I'm not really sure what place the High Beastmaster has these days when you've got Rakarth on the field with the armor piercing damage. It's just such a big advantage to have, because then he can take on characters, he can take on monsters, he can take on infantry. Armor piercing goes a long way. But of course, we were lacking a caster. That's what we really needed here. Something to make use of all that magic. We could maybe switch out the Lord choice and go for Malekith on a Black Dragon. A Black Dragon could be a good play here against the Chaos because they don't have any strong missiles. They've got their Skirmish Cav, but they're all short range, so they're quite easy to keep your Dragon away from. And then all you really need to watch out for is Dragon Ogre units, but those again you can run away from. So a Dragon could be a good pick here because the Chaos lack the missiles to deal with it effectively. For Malekith himself, you could bring pretty much minimal stuff. Just Soul Stealer will do. It's a pretty expensive spell, but a very powerful one. It basically helps keep Malekith alive. And guess what? You can use it on that bastard Archaon, which would have helped in the previous situation. But of course, we also have that Dragon as well to help in that situation. But yeah, minimal Malekith. Pretty strong pick on the Dragon. But of course, we're quite over in the cost now, so we could lose some Harpies. As we said, probably didn't need that many, so we'll lose 1 unit of those. Like I mentioned about 8 times, they're good for just chilling out the way, waiting for something to rout and then jumping on them. And we don't need loads of them to do that. 2 would be enough. We can lose the chevrons on the Dread Spears. That helps us out a little. Still over though, so we could maybe lose a unit of Bleak Swords. It's about the right cost, so there you go. 1 less unit of Bleak Swords won't hurt us too much. And now we've got Malekith on a Black freaking Dragon. And he's just very versatile because he has the Dragon for the melee damage. He's got the breath attacks. He's got the magic as well. He's got the healing for himself essentially. He's just a force to be reckoned with. His front line of infantry and his little flanking units were fine. That's all you really need against the Chaos, because you very often see Chaos Marauders these days. Got the decent anti-infantry though, at least for those Marauders, for taking them down, all the light stuff. Dark Shards there if he needs to take some armor piercing to something, maybe some Dragon Ogres, which may have been there, obviously weren't in this case. And the Cav for that job as well. And of course, the Cav good for cycle charging infantry. And then those Harpies, which as you probably know by now, can chase stuff off. And that works well with Malekith and his terror, because Malekith could terrorize something and get it running. The Harpies could then take advantage of that while it's in low leadership to get it properly routed and then chase it off. So he can team up with those Harpies for some serious routing power. So that's what we could do if we want to keep his army mostly the same, but maybe we could add more Cav in here. The Dark Elves have got some great cavalry. We could lose some Dread Spears and some Harpies. That'll get us another unit of Cav. Cold One Knights, 3 units of those. Very useful. They can take on any of the large that the Chaos have, but also just cycle charge the infantry. So they've got some good versatile use in that Cav. And what else could we do? We could maybe change the Lord up. If you don't want to spend the big bucks on Malekith, you could go for that Caster Lord, Supreme Sorceress. This gives us the magic and the Lord in one go, as obviously we didn't have the caster in the original build. Just a few things good for Chaos. Maybe the Withering to reduce their armor if they should have any. And Pit of Shades, always useful against infantry. And probably a good backup in case there was Chaos Warriors or some kind of heavy armor. You don't really have anything great to deal with that, so Pit of Shades could have played that role. Now frees up a bunch of money, so we could put that into something else. Maybe some Blackguard of Nagarond. Nice strong anti-large unit in case there's Dragon Ogres. We can chase them off with that. Could have dealt with the Manticores in this battle's case. We maybe could have switched around some missile units, brought some Shades. They could have taken on some of that lesser Chaos Infantry, as well as shooting stuff, of course. So they can be a kind of good dual role unit against the Chaos, provided it's not Chaos Warriors or anything with lots of armor, because they'll be able to beat up Chaos Marauders, especially if they soften them up with a few missiles first. So Shades were an option, but I think Dark Shards are probably fine. As Chaos are a rush faction, it can be a little bit harder with more stationary missile units, but 2 units, I think that's fine. You can protect those well enough and keep them firing. Could maybe bring more Cold One Dread Knights. As I said, more Cavs always good. 5 units of Cav here, very Cav-heavy army. That could be nice. That could work. And again, you've got all that armor piercing in the Cav as well, so if there is a lot of Chaos Warriors, you've got a way to deal with them. So yeah, overall a fairly decent build as it was. Just needed that caster, and just messing around with the Lord, I think, could probably solve that problem without having to adjust everything else as such. I think I would go for the Malekith plan, because that Black Dragon would be great against the Chaos. You've got the Dragon Breath, you've got the magic, you've got Malekith himself as a beefcake. So yeah, there we go. Thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this. See you in the future.